and welcome back. We're all at this time right now where we're worrying about getting our food, worrying about getting our essentials for our household. Some of us may have started thinking about our animals, our lizards more specifically, and some of us may not have thought about that yet. But what happens if we are locked down? Do you have something in store for your animals, for your lizards? I'm not talking about dogs and cats right now. Dogs and cats can almost eat anything you throw at them. But when you deal with like bearded dragons, to say specifically, because that's what I own and I breed. I luckily didn't breed this year. I'm glad I didn't. I'm very thankful I didn't. But when you're dealing with them, there's very limited sources of what you can feed them. So if you've thought about that, some of you may have started getting worried, like, what am I going to feed them? Or you may not have thought about it yet, but you may want to think about it, just in case. Just be on the safe side. Obviously, a lot of lizards, they can eat bugs. You may not be able to get to the store to get bugs, but now you still should be able to order from cricket suppliers or mealworm suppliers or different suppliers of bugs and get a bulk order shipped to you. We do have mealworms at my house. They're very easy to upkeep. They do transform into beetles and they breed. It takes a lot longer for the breeding process. But you keep them in oatmeal and you keep like a water source, which would typically be like romaine, an apple, a potato, something that they can eat for water. Simple to upkeep them. It really is. So that's one idea. But like I said, once they transition to the beetle, it's going to take a lot longer for them to mature for feeding sources, because the beetle is what breeds the mealworms. The beetle is too hard to feed to the dragons. It's a choking hazard in a sense. The other thing that's fairly easy to upkeep is the dubia roaches, which we also have. Dubia roaches, they actually mature a lot faster. You keep them in a container with some egg crate, egg cartons, and you keep the space so they have something to stay on and also keep space and circulation. Keep it in a warm spot, and then you just feed them food. They don't typically like lettuce so much, so they like the citrusy stuff and like potatoes. You can still put greens in there, but again, if you're dealing with a shortage of food for dragons or another bearded, I just repeated myself, or another lizard, you probably don't have a lot of greens to spare, so you're probably going to be using other food sources anyway. But those are also relatively easy to raise and upkeep. Crickets aren't that hard to keep. They're a little noisy, but you put them in a tank with some tubes to climb through, and you keep, again, a food source in there. Same type of sources that you would give to the others. Don't do citrusy with them. I usually just put a potato in there. Potatoes work. It may not be the highest nutritional value for them. You're not going to gut load them in any way. If you have something like the greens or something healthier that's got the high calcium content, you're gut loading them for the dragons. So that's another good source. But now, all bugs aside, if you don't want to do the bugs, you don't have access to getting the bugs, whatever your reason may be, you can also do some stuff to have some greens in the house. If you go to the store now and you're shopping for yourself and you find a whole bunch of lettuce, first off, I should probably get the credit for this. Credit where it's due. Swampy's Grubs, an amazing breeder in our area, he knows what he's talking about. He put this list down and I thought, you know what? I'm going to make a video on it, because there's a lot of people that are probably stressing right now about this. So I am going to give credit where it's due. Swampy's Grubs, thank you for this list. He's a very knowledgeable, amazing breeder. Has some great insight. But back to the topic. If you can go buy a ton of greens, though, like you can buy them in bulk right now, you're obviously not going to feed them before they go bad. So you can take them home and freeze them. Now, the downfall is you will lose some nutritional value, and a lot of them come out a little slimier after defrosting. But the ones that do best are like collard greens, kale, and cabbage. They're the harder greens. They do best with the freeze and defrost where they don't get as slimy. And if you make sure you dry the leaves off thoroughly, layer paper towels around them, yes, it's more work, but it's going to make for a better green when it comes out of the freezer. I've in the past also dehydrated my greens. You put it all in the dehydrator, let it dehydrate till it's dry. You can rehydrate that by adding it in water, or you can feed it to them dry. I've done both. Again, you get a little bit slimier of a green when you rehydrate. You lose some nutritional value, but it's better than nothing. It's better than nothing. It's scary to think you might watch your animal starve to death because you can't find what they need. The next thing that you could do is, I had to look at the list, wild greens. You can collect grass, clover, dandelions, and mulberry leaves. They are all safe. Make sure you're collecting them in a non-treated area, no chemicals, and also a good distance, at least 100 feet away from any roadways, even driveways. You don't want to collect it near where cars are emitting exhaust. The exhaust can be deadly for the lizards. Not only does it gather on the leaves themselves, but it also goes into the root system. So even if you thoroughly clean it, it still can be in the plant. So you want to try to stay away from the roadways. It's not an ideal source of food, but it's better than nothing, again, if you have no other options. So it's something to consider. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that as your only option, but it is something to consider. The best option, obviously, is growing your own. And some of you may not want to deal with all that, but it is obviously going to be the healthiest option, the most self-sufficient. It's going to be readily available. You don't have to worry about the outside sources. So there's some fast-growing options that you can get for the dragon. I don't have for all other lizards, but for the dragon, I'm sure it's good for others that eat greens, but research it. Grass, plain grass seed. Plain grass seed. Make sure you buy the seed that has no chemicals added, and it's fast growing. It's a fast growing source. It's replenishable. When you cut it, obviously it still keeps growing back. So that's one option. Catgrass or wheatgrass. Again, a very readily fast growing source. Easy to do. You might have some already for your cat, or you can always possibly get to the pet store now and get some, or find some seeds. Garden cress, peppergrass. It is harvestable in 2 to 3 days. Another very renewable, fast source that's healthy. You also have clover. You can get the seeds online, and they are very high nutrition. So that's another great source. Millet, which you find in birdseed. You can plant that. It's another fast sprouting, non-toxic option. All that stuff you would grow in 1 to 2 inches of soil in a deep dish, or you can lay it over a paper towel as well and get it to sprout that way. These are all fast sprouting options. Also, right now, if you're in like central United States, I'm in Indiana, we're hitting that time of year where greens, where lettuce, romaine, mustard, kale, that stuff like thrives in this type of weather. It doesn't handle heat well. It's going to seed, sprout, and it's over with. It's done. But during this time of year, actually a frost is good for greens. It makes it more tender. Just like grass, when you grow lettuce, if you break the leaves off, they resprout, and they resprout relatively fast. It may take a little longer for it to grow, but I'm actually in the process of planting my greens, of planting my lettuce, my romaine, all that stuff outside right now. So I have a renewable source, not only for the dragons, but also for myself. I can eat it. So I am planting my greens outside. I'm actually going to pick up some grass seed today because I hadn't thought about that, but it's a nice, fast, renewable source. I'm going to pick that up and plant some of that for my dragons as well, just to be on the safe side. I do have bugs. I do have other options. Thank God. I have dehydrated greens that I have dehydrated in the past, so I have some options. But I know some of you guys are probably worried because you just didn't know what you're going to do. So these are just options that you can do that are self-sustainable, that are going to work for your animals, so they stay healthy as well during this whole crisis. Obviously, if you have the calcium powder, put some calcium powder over it, keep it a little bit healthier for them, keep the calcium for them. Right now, I would highly recommend go pick up an extra heat bulb, pick up some extra stuff, so that way you have it if it's needed. Think about them as well as you're stocking up for yourself. Don't go nuts. but make sure you have it in case you need it. You don't want to end up in a bind. But guys, I hope this helped. Again, shout out to Swampy's Grubs. He had some amazing details, amazing information to put out there. And I wanted to share it with you guys just because I know some of you have lizards that you're probably worried about at this time. So it's just some ideas, some stuff to remember. Stay safe, guys. Don't freak out. Enjoy your time with your family. It's all we can do. And we'll catch you on the next one.